A blurry image of a girl suddenly flashed through Truong's mind, long hair in the wind, sad eyes he couldn't put a name to. The feeling hit him out of nowhere, tightening his chest as if he'd forgotten something important about himself. While he was still trying to make sense of that half-faded memory, shouting erupted outside. A tattooed thug showed up pounding on the wooden door and threatening to take the land Truong's mother had lived on for more than 40 years. His mother stood in the doorway, her hands shaking, and then almost like someone pushed him forward, Truong walked out from the kitchen. He didn't know who he was, and he didn't understand why, but instinct made him step in front of his mother, facing the thug with a cold, steady stare. When the man finally left, Truong slowly backed up and sat down by the small kitchen fire. He asked quietly, his voice trembling, "Who was I?" And in his eyes, that shadowy image of Tieu flickered again like a reminder he still couldn't reach. Afternoon. Light fell across the porch, and smoke from the cooking fire curled upward, casting a warm glow on Truong's thoughtful face. He sat by the fire, scratching his head lightly, his voice rough and barely above a whisper, as if he were talking to himself. Mew mew. Do you know who I am? Why does my mind feel so empty? The little cat curled up beside the fire let out a soft meow. The fire crackled. Truong's gaze drifted into the distance, memories shattered and blurry like morning fog, leaving only the uneasy sense that somewhere out there, someone was waiting for him. Behind him, the sound of slippers sliding on the wooden floor echoed softly. Mi-hai walked in wearing her old sweater and carrying a small basket of vegetables she had just picked. She saw him sitting alone, set the basket down, and moved closer. Thinking again, she asked, her voice rough but warm like the fire itself. Truong startled slightly, then nodded. Yes. I just keep wondering who I used to be. Did I have a family? Or was I always alone? She sat down beside him, her eyes soft and full of affection. She looked at his face, thin, pale, gentle, like a lost child trying to figure out his own life. Don't worry, she said quietly. The doctor said your head injury was serious. That bullet skimmed so close. 1 second later, and I might never have met you. She sighed, her voice shaking just a little. Temporary memory loss isn't strange in a case like yours. The important thing is you're alive. Everything else, time will take care of. Truong looked down at his hands. When he woke up, he remembered nothing. No name, no age, no one's face. Every time he tried to think, pain shot through his head until everything went blank again. But he took a deep breath, chest tightening. I keep feeling like someone's waiting for me, like someone out there is worried about me, looking for me. And I don't even know who. Mi-hai placed a steady, warm hand on his shoulder. Don't torture yourself. The more you push, the harder it is for your memory to come back. Stay here with me. Little by little, it'll return. He stayed quiet. He wanted to believe her, but the emptiness inside him twisted painfully like an open wound. She continued gently but firmly. I took you in, and I don't expect anything except to see you healthy. For now, I'm your only family. You don't have to fear anything. Truong turned toward her, meeting her tired but sincere eyes. "Mother, don't worry. Even if I remember everything one day, I won't leave you. I'll never forget how you took care of me." She smiled her eyes, forming soft lines at the corners. "That's enough to make me happy. With you here, even a poor house feels warm." Outside, the rain started to fall harder, tapping loudly on the thatched roof. The wind slipped in through the cracks, making the fire flicker. Truong looked out at the rain-soaked yard and murmured, "It's peaceful here. Every morning when I wake up to the fire and the sound of roosters, I feel calmer. But inside, something keeps pulling at me, like a familiar feeling trying to surface, but getting held back at the last second." "That's a good sign," she said with a smile. "It means your brain is trying to remember. Don't force it. Let it come naturally." She stood up and gently patted his shoulder. "Go check on the fish pond for me. I think they ran out of grass again." He nodded, grabbing the sickle hanging by the door. "Okay. I'll cut more. You go rest. Stop bending over so much. You've been complaining about your back all week." I know. But wear your hat. The weather looks bad. If it rains more, you'll get sick." He laughed softly. "I'm fine, Mom. A little rain won't hurt." "No," she scolded, handing him a worn conical hat. "You just recovered. Don't get careless." He gave in, put the hat on, and stepped outside. The rain had become a thin mist, sparkling under the dull morning light. Walking along the edge of the pond, he bent down and cut the tall grass. His hands worked quickly, but his mind drifted into that same foggy space again. Then he froze. A faint image flashed through his memory. A girl standing in a yard, her long hair moving in the wind. It lasted only a second. Truong tightened his grip on the sickle, his heart suddenly tightening. He whispered, "Who is she?" Rain fell harder, soaking the conical hat. But Truong stayed there unmoving, caught by that fleeting image he couldn't name yet somehow knew. It mattered more than anything. That afternoon, gray clouds drifted slowly over the mountain ridge as the wind swept across the old stilt house where Mihai had lived for decades. Truong had just gone to the backyard to gather more grass for the fish, leaving her in the kitchen to start cooking dinner. The rain had just stopped. The ground was still wet, and the air carried the smell of straw. While Truong was crouched by the pond, a sharp voice suddenly echoed from the front yard. "Ba hai, is anyone home?" Heavy footsteps thudded up the wooden steps, followed by loud knocking that rattled the door latch. Mihai pushed herself up slowly and stepped outside, her face still dusted with ash from the stove. A tattooed young man stood in the yard, tall, impatient, and clearly full of attitude. He pulled at his jacket and looked around like he was inspecting something he planned to take. "Come out here, Bahai. I've got something to say." She kept her voice calm, though her steps were slower than usual. "What's the matter, son? Why are you yelling like that?" He glanced from the house to the land around it, eyes sharp and greedy. "How long have you lived here?" "Almost 45 years. Good." He smirked. "My boss is starting a big project. We need this land. You should move somewhere else. Don't worry about compensation. We've got plenty of money." Mihai straightened her back. Her hands trembled a little, but her eyes stayed firm. "I've lived here since I was a young woman. My husband is buried here. I'm not going anywhere." The guy frowned, his tone turning cold. You should think about it. This old house of yours is falling apart. Getting money for it is a blessing. Why cling to this useless patch of land? It may be old, but it's my home, she said clearly. Don't think you can bully poor people just because you have power behind you. When she still didn't budge, he shifted from persuasion to threats. You're really stubborn, huh? We're being polite now. But if my boss shows up, you won't like how that goes. I'm warning you. But Mihai didn't flinch. She'd lived through hardship all her life. Nothing scared her anymore. I've lived here for more than 40 years. Your threats don't scare me. Do whatever you want. I'm not leaving. Angry, he stepped closer. Remember what you just said. When my boss comes. But before he could finish, a man's low voice cut him off from behind. What's going on here? Why all the noise? Truong came running up from the pond, still holding the wet bundle of grass. He was out of breath, but his eyes turned cold the moment he saw the stranger cornering his mother. The thug turned and narrowed his eyes. And you are? Truong stepped forward and stood in front of Mihai. I'm her son. Why are you yelling at my mother? The guy scoffed. This has nothing to do with you. My boss needs this land for a project. Tell her to move. Old people can live anywhere. Truong narrowed his eyes, his voice calm but firm. As far as I know, this land belongs to her legally. No one has the right to force her off it. The thug laughed, half mocking, half threatening. Say that again when my boss gets here. Then call your boss, Truong said flatly. We're not doing anything wrong. We're not afraid of anyone. For the first time, the young man looked thrown off. His face tightened at being challenged so directly. Fine. You just wait. Don't say I didn't warn you. He spun around and walked off, shooting them a hard look as he left. The bamboo gate rattled behind him, and the yard fell quiet again. Only the sound of rain tapping on the ground and wind rushing through the areca trees. Truong turned to his mother, steadying her by the shoulder. Are you okay, Mom? She shook her head and exhaled deeply. I'm fine. But they came for our land. I don't know what they'll try next. Truong looked at the old stilt house. The place that saved his life. The place where she fed him, took care of him, and gave him a home when he had no memory of who he was. This land wasn't just dirt. It was everything he had. He clenched his fist. Don't worry, I'll look into it. If they're in the wrong, no one is taking this land from us. They walked back inside. The fire was still burning, the pot of rice still simmering on the stove. But in Truong's chest, a quiet fear was growing. Not because of the land, but because deep down he felt he was about to lose something important. Something he still couldn't remember. The rain hadn't stopped all evening. It came and went in waves, tapping against the small windows of Tieu's house, like someone knocking softly, then fading away again. Inside the quiet room, the warm yellow light from a single lamp made the wooden walls look even older. The house wasn't big, just 2 small rooms and a narrow kitchen, but it carried years of memories, laughter, and the kind of silence only someone living alone could understand. Tieu sat at the edge of her bed, a folded blanket in her lap. She wasn't cold, but her hands kept smoothing the fabric as if doing so could help settle the thoughts swirling inside her. Now and then, she glanced at the window, watching the rain slide down the glass in thin, trembling lines. She had been doing the same thing for the past hour, waiting for the rain to stop. But really, She was waiting for her heart to calm down. It didn't. Not tonight. Not since the day Truong disappeared. Her eyes shifted to the small wooden table by the wall. On it sat a tiny tin box, old, scratched, and faded. Inside were the things she kept hidden from the world. A torn photo of her and Truong when they were young, a folded letter she once wrote but never sent, and a dried white flower he had given her on the afternoon he promised he would return. He didn't. Or maybe he tried. She didn't know which one hurt more. Tieu stood up and walked toward the table. Her fingers hesitated above the tin box before gently opening it. The lid creaked softly. She picked up the photo first. The edges were frayed from being touched too many times. Truong was smiling in it, carefree and warm, the way he used to smile only when he was around her. She remembered the exact moment the photo was taken, the two of them sitting on the fence behind her house, laughing over something silly he said. She remembered how the wind blew his hair that day, how the sunlight hit his face, how safe she felt beside him. Her chest tightened, and she pressed the photo against her heart for a second before placing it back into the box. Next, she opened the folded letter. The ink had faded a little, but she knew every word by heart. She had written it during the week she searched for him, when she still believed he might walk back through her door any moment. The letter began with, "Truong, if you ever see this, I'm still here." She read the first few lines, then closed the letter again. She couldn't bear reading the whole thing tonight, not when her heart felt this fragile. She put the letter down and took the last item, the dried white flower. It was delicate, almost brittle, but she held it with care. It was the only promise he left her, with the only thing she kept close when the loneliness felt too heavy. Outside, a sudden gust of wind made the wooden door rattle. Tieu startled slightly and looked toward it, half expecting someone to walk in. No one did. Of course, no one did. She closed the tin box gently and sat back on her bed. The rain picked up again, louder this time, drowning the quiet sounds of the night. Her mind drifted back to the days before everything fell apart, when she would wake up to the sound of his footsteps outside, when he would tap on her window and call her name with that half-teasing voice, when he would bring her small gifts from the forest or from the market, saying, "I saw this and thought of you." She wondered if he still remembered any of it, if he remembered her, if he remembered the night he held her hand by the river and told her he would never leave. A soft ache settled in her chest, the kind that had lived there for years. But tonight, something felt different. She didn't know why, but she felt uneasy, like her heart was trying to tell her something, like something was changing. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden creak of the gate outside. She froze. Her heart skipped once, then twice. She waited, barely breathing. The rain covered most sounds, but she knew the sound of her gate. She had opened and closed it every day of her life. She stepped toward the door, her hands cold even in the warm room. She listened. Nothing. Just the rain. Maybe it was the wind, or maybe her imagination. She let out a slow breath and leaned her forehead against the wooden door, closing her eyes. "Truong," she whispered, almost inaudible. "Where are you now?" Her voice shook, but she didn't cry. She had cried enough for a lifetime. Now all she had left was a quiet longing, the type that lived inside her like a shadow. She returned to the bed and sat down again, hugging her knees to her chest. She stared at the tin box, then at the window, then back at her hands. She wondered if he was safe. She wondered if he was hurt. She wondered if he had forgotten her completely. But the worst thought, the one she always tried to avoid, rose quietly inside her. What if he remembered, but chose not to come back? She shook her head. No, that wasn't him. He wasn't that kind of person. At least the man in her memories wasn't. The rain finally softened, turning into a gentle drizzle. Tieu lay down on her side, pulling the blanket to her chin. Her eyes stayed open, even though she felt exhausted. She didn't know that at this very moment, just a few valleys away, Truong was standing in the rain, gripping a sickle, staring blankly at a memory of a girl with long hair blowing in the wind, the same memory that kept her awake tonight. They were both waiting, both remembering, both hurting, just in different places under the same rain.